Special meeting of the Board of Commissioners, September 23rd, 2024, at 6 p.m. Notice to the public. For special meetings, the board must adhere to the published agenda and is not at liberty to discuss other topics. Orders and resolutions are passed by one vote, while ordinances require two readings to be adopted. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Radwanski.
Here.
Commissioner Smith-Morrow.
Here.
Commissioner Recton.
Here.
Vice Mayor Fennell.
Here.
Mayor Kaduli.
Here. Commissioner Order number 59 through 63.
In order, the Board of Commissioners, City of Newport, Kentucky, appointing Benton Cliff to the position of firefighter, paramedic in the Newport Fire EMS Department effective September 24th, 2024.
So moved. Second.
Number 60 is an order of the Board of Commissioners, City of Newport, Kentucky, appointing Trenton Stoltz to the position of firefighter EMT to the Newport Fire EMS Department effective September 30th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
61, an order of the Board of Commissioners of City of Newport, Kentucky, appointing Tyler Ivesil to the position of firefighter EMT in the Newport Fire EMS Department effective September 24th, 2024.
So moved. Second.
62, an order of the Board of Commissioners, City of Newport, Kentucky, appointing Brian Robinson to the position of firefighter EMT in the Newport Fire EMS Department effective September 24th, 2024.
So moved. Second.
63, in order the Board of Commissioners, City of Newport, Kentucky, appointing Tyler Massey to the position of firefighter EMT in the Newport Fire EMS Department effective September 24th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Chief Peluso.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, Board of Commissioners, thank you for your time this evening. Standing before you is a group of firefighters who have just competed in one of the most competitive selection processes in the Newport Fire Department in quite some time. They are all experienced firefighters with a wide knowledge and skills and ability, both inside and outside the fire service. Each one of them is talented in their own ways. It is my absolute pleasure to recommend these gentlemen for appointment with the Newport Fire Department.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Any questions on the board? I do have one question. We're getting closer to being fully staffed. How many additional hires beyond this do we need?
We are. We will need 4 more after tonight, and I am hoping that we can have 3 more on the next agenda.
Great.
Great progress.
Thank you.
All right, please call the roll, Tiffany.
59 is going to be Vice Mayor Fennell,
Yes.
Commissioner Radwanski,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith-Morrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Recton,
Yes.
Mayor Kaduli.
Yes, and welcome.
Tiffany, that's for all 5.
Oh, all 5.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yes.
She did indicate 59, but Roy indicated 50.
Yes.
62, or 63.
Cool.
Congratulations.
Welcome aboard. Thank you. Yep.
Congratulations.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome aboard.
Nice to have you.
Welcome aboard.
Congratulations. Absolutely. Congratulations. Absolutely. Congratulations. Yep. Congratulations.
I will.
The next item on the agenda is a presentation of Officer Chris Armstrong's recognition of years of service. Chief Fangman.
Thank you, Mayor, Board of Commissioners. Very much appreciated. There's a lot of things that people know and see that police officers do. You can watch your news when you wake up and see what occurs on the night prior. Behind all of the glamour and some of the crazy things that everybody knows that we deal with, there's a lot of cleanup. There's a lot of back-end work. Before you is Chris Armstrong, 21 years as a police officer. He was on the fire investigation team. He was also on the major accident reconstruction unit. Those are 2 of the most stressful things that a police officer has to deal with. Chris has seen very, very difficult things, more so than a lot of us, to include myself. If you ever hear of a fatal traffic accident or a very terrible situation, it was Chris's job to go in and investigate, collect evidence, do everything he could to make sure justice was served. Chris and I were on night shift together for several years. Whenever a terrible incident occurred, he was my go-to to go up to UC, get the information, talk with the victim, talk with everybody involved, and get the information that was going to bring the case to fruition. With that said, Chris, thank you so much for putting yourself out there and doing that for all of us. Not every officer wants to do that part of this job. It's very difficult. So thank you for doing all that in your career. Congratulations.
Thanks for your service.
Congratulations. Absolutely.
Congratulations, Chris. And if you want to hang up here, we're going to take a 5-minute break to afford the new hires and Chris to get some photos with his family. We'll reconvene at 6:15. Welcome back. Tiffany, if you could please call us back in.
Commissioner Redwanski,
Here.
Commissioner Smith Morrow,
Here.
Commissioner Recton,
Here.
Vice Mayor Fennell,
Here.
Mayor Kaduli.
Here, and we're going to roll right into the public forum portion of our meeting. At this time, if you have a city service-related issue or any announcements, including a festival that might be coming up, this is your time to come up to the microphone, as I see David preparing.
Thank you. I'm not sure where my partners are. I think everybody had other things, but thank you for having us, and thank you for giving us the moment. So hopefully by now, everybody's heard about Mammoth Music and Arts Festival, which is happening this Sunday on 6th Street. We're going to shut down the block of between Monmouth and Saratoga, and we've got a nice event planned, free to the public, thanks to our sponsors, the support of the city. It's been a really great thing. This is the inaugural event. This is something that's not brand new to the city. It's happened in past years. It's just not been around for a while. So we are anticipating a pretty good turnout. We have over 25 bands. We have a nice lineup of artists, and we welcome everybody to attend. And thanks everybody for the support. And that's really all I have to say.
And it starts at 1 o'clock.
It's at 1 o'clock with a kickoff announcement welcoming everybody, hopefully from you, Mr. Mayor.
I appreciate that. Yeah, the event ends at 8 p.m.?
8 p.m., that's correct, yeah.
Okay, and it's a free event. So unlike a lot of events and festivals that you got to go and pay for, this is a free event.
That's right, that's right.
Now, historically, this was the Newport Arts and Music Festival, and now it's Mammoth.
That's right.
It's
The
a
iterations
branded event.
before- Yes, exactly. Iterations before were Newport Arts and Arts Festival, Arts and Music Festival, and then there were some other things along the way that had happened, actually before I was even in town. I have partners in this venture, Morella Raleigh, who owns Southgate House Revival, Jim Guthrie, who's a Newport resident, owns Hub and Weber Architecture, and Greg Tully, also a resident of Newport. So the four of us have put this together, and again, thanks to the support of the city and all the sponsors, it's come a long way, and we're super excited about it. So
And you're David Dalton, and your company is which one?
the Think Shop and Red Hot Promotion.
All right, both of them.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks.
We're a marketing branding company. So
Great, thanks, David.
thank you all. I have a little, if I may.
Oh, sweet.
nice.
Nice.
You.
Love it.
Awesome.
Yeah, you can put your soda in this,
Put it in
or
there
whatever you
right
prefer.
now.
Thank you. All right.
What on this page?
Stands in there for the day of, hopefully everybody can make it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Flyers for everybody else too.
Great. Thank you. Continuation of public forum, welcome. Please come up to the mic and introduce yourself.
I don't want to go out of order. Is this the time we start talking about the city tax levy?
Actually, we will you'll speak to that when we're on that agenda item.
I don't want to break protocol.
Okay, thanks. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jen Shepard. This is impromptu. I just decided I'm here. So I just wanted to thank the city of Newport for working with me with my idea of having a kayak rental and storage system for paddling water sports put at the waterfront in the General James Taylor Park. So I hope for continuation of bigger and better things for outdoor recreation and the parks for the city of Newport, but I want to thank all of you for helping support that.
Well, Jen, it's no longer an idea. It's
I know.
there.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I see it, growing to even blossoming to something even more beautiful across the whole outdoor recreation and the parks development. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you for your efforts. Anyone else for public forum? Going once, going twice. Public forum is now closed. We're going to move to the approval of the minutes of August 19th, 2024. Look for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of
Second.
August 19th.
Second.
Any comments or corrections? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Redwanski,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith Morrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Recton,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fennell,
Yes.
Mayor Kaduli.
Yes. Old business, second reading of Commissioners Ordinance Number 18.
An ordinance of the Board of Commissioners, City of Newport, Kentucky, levying and assessing ad valorem taxes for city purposes for the fiscal year 2024 through 2025 on all property located within the City of Newport, Kentucky.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments on the board? City Manager, Assistant City Manager, John Hayden.
Mayor and Commissioners, just one issue here, and it's a question that's been brought up that I've heard today, and I think some people in the community have discussed it. And I've spoken with Mr. Kuntz about that as well, and he can speak to this when time is appropriate. There is some question about the city's tax rate, and I think that from talking to Mr. Kuntz and understanding what I think some of the concerns are, I think that we have maybe oversimplified what compensating rate means. So I think that we'll say, compensating rates bring in the exact same revenue that you brought last year. That's not exactly accurate. It's very close, but it's based on a formula. There's exemptions, various things that go on. So that was a question a resident had brought up today. We had brought Mr. Kuntz up to go through this, and he was explaining the process of which we double check our compensating rate number to make sure that it is accurate. As the board is well aware, the board is only allowed to increase the taxes by compensating rate +4. Anything else other than that, the board could do that, but it would be subject to a recall. So it's been the tradition of this board in most cities that they would not go beyond the 4% increase. So Mr. Kuntz can explain that, but I understand there's some questions, so probably best that we let the public speak first and then let.
Okay, any questions on the board before we go to the public? All right, to the public, this is your opportunity to speak on the tax rate.
So
Excuse me, can you,
let me just get a little closer.
sorry, what's your name?
My name is Kevin Cook.
All right, thanks, Kevin.
So we had the first meeting on this on the 16th in a special meeting. This usually doesn't get notifications because it's out of series. We waited 1 week.
I'm sorry, what did
You had the first reading on the tax levy
Yeah, the notification was provided, it's required by law.
in the newspapers, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not in the normal periods of stuff. We just made a special meeting, the minimum by law is what I kind of expect.
What we expect what?
And I would expect the city to be, if they're going to do special meetings, to be a little more vocal about it. It's like they put out a newspaper. It's like, I know everybody buys a newspaper, right?
Do you get the emails or the Facebook notifications?
I'm on the
those
email
things?
list.
Okay, did you receive a copy of it?
Does a lot of people receive a copy of that?
No, I'm just asking because if you haven't received it, I want to make sure you're on the list. So it's a legitimate concern if
I
people aren't getting it.
definitely received the last one. I can definitely check to see if this one is
Cool.
that. So, yeah, well, I find it to be a bit of a rush, a 1 week we're talking millions of dollars here. Let's make no mistake on the matter. One of my concerns here is the economy is not in the best of shape right now. Unless you guys say it is, feel free to argue on that. That's objectionable. But I just want to hear if you think it is. It's not the best time to really putting additional financial pressure on anybody. A lot of our businesses are been closing around here and staying closed for months, if not years. And a lot of that, I believe, is to be the additional financial pressure we've been placing on them and such. For an example, I want to point out one thing here. Our county has the highest income tax rate there is at 1.05. I know you don't have control of that because you're not the county, but everything adds up. The city, and that's all Kentucky, the city has the highest income tax rate of 2.5. All of Kentucky, okay, again, you have the interest rates on most of your insurance rates are 15%, to the best of my knowledge here, maximum allowed by law, which puts you, lucky for you, second of all of Kentucky. And I go, well, let's go milk a little more out of everybody, right? And yeah, I know you're going to say, it's a lower rate, but does that top number go up? Yes, it does. You're putting a lot of pressure on your small businesses. You're putting a lot of pressure on that. And I just want to know, hey, I just want to know if the citizens honestly believe if they're getting a premium experience, we buy premium, everybody buys premium products. You've seen these Apple iPhones around here. I can't afford those things, but if they feel like they're getting a premium experience, they're getting a premium experience. But I'm not getting the impression a lot of people, with the shootings down on Ann, 10th and Ann and 11th, the robberies I'm hearing about over in just recently, a couple of days ago.
Excuse me, sir, we're talking about
Right.
the tax rate.
So, I'm talking about what we pay. What are we paying for our money? What are we getting in return? Are we getting security? So, I don't think it's actually advantageous given the economy, given the other taxes we've levered in a lot of pressure on it to add additional pressure upon all the citizens. If you feel that that is acceptable, obviously you can vote. You can vote that way. I'd rather see a lot of small businesses get a break to want to show up in the first place. I also know that this is also going to greatly impact the lower income, because what's happening in this current housing market is a lot of private equity and other companies, investors, have been buying the lower income bracket, pushing that up. That's what's jumped recently. That's what has gone up in the PVA. So those are the people that are going to be greatly impacted by this. The houses that were bought up very quickly because they were in high in demand, so the price goes up. I just don't think this community can take any more pressure without crumbling. I support Ken and none of the, only Ken.
Thank you.
I need a chair because I have some feet issues.
Okay, welcome.
Use this. My name is Michelle Cade.
Okay.
I'm new to the community. I've been here for less than a year. And I have some questions on the taxes. I just got my,
Michelle, could you hold that to your mouth? Because it does go out to the public, so it would help. Yes, thank you, appreciate it.
I have some questions about the taxes, and basically the value of the real estate has gone up. What are the dollar amounts of the value of the real estate in the city of Kentucky, or in the city of Newport? What's been the increase in the last year? Do you know the numbers?
Well, those numbers were discussed at the last meeting, and Lenny, would you like to offer a little insight into how the compensating rate is adjusted fundamentally? Go ahead. You go ahead and describe it.
I can listen to some of the other questions, and I can go through some of those numbers once you have your list of questions.
Well, my main question was, what's the increase in revenue already? Because we have an increase in property value, correct?
That's what reduces the property tax rate. So the actual rate is less. That's what we're voting on, is to reduce the tax rate.
We're reducing the tax rate.
Yes, we are.
It's going from $2.60 per thousand to $2.15 per thousand, which is.
I thought it was the opposite.
No, the values went up, which
The
pushes the
values
rate
went-
down.
The values went up. Okay.
We don't set the values, that's set by the county.
The value set by the county, the rate set by you.
Well, for Newport, right.
Just for the city of Newport, I understand that.
Yes.
Now,
So our rate is going down by 45 cents per thousand.
per thousand, okay. I'm here to ask you about a rate that I just got on an insurance bill. My insurance bill went up quite a bit because I moved to the city of Newport because it's based on risk, it's insurance. So then, at the bottom of my bill, I see an extra $355, which is 15% of my tax bill, plus an extra 2% administrative fee. Where do those monies go?
The $300 does come to the city of Newport.
I know, I'm just asking,
It goes to the budget to pay for police, fire, and additional services.
so it's services.
Well, all the government operations, yes.
Well, sometimes you have a separate fund and you account for that differently, so. that's
No,
what
we
I'm asking.
do, the only separate fund we have in the city of Newport is the refuse fund.
The refuse fund. That's the only separate fund?
That's correct.
It's all general?
Huh?
It's all general?
Let Lenny answer the question.
So by ordinance, when we did increase some of the fees to 15%, by ordinance, we decided to take 9% of all the insurance premium tax dollars and put that into the capital projects fund, which is commonly
referred to as the resurfacing money.
Correct.
So,
So when you say resurfacing?
For street.
well, it's capital improvements. It's more often than not used for
Like
street
this building?
resurfacing,
Like the building?
like street resurfacing.
Oh,
General fund, so the other 91% stays in general fund. That pays for the Department of Law, city administration, police, fire, public works, recreation, the pool, the operation of this building, the payment of debt service, everything that falls under our general fund. That 9% moves into capital projects fund. More often than not, it's used for the resurfacing of streets, but it's also been used for work on the flood wall. We've got a dam up on Waterworks. We've got a couple of detention ponds, park projects that can be used towards that.
and I have another tax question.
Well-
I might be asking you up now. So what kind
Any
of, I see there are a lot of big businesses, and I don't know.
Hand her the microphone, please.
My apologies.
Some people
I
want-
see there are quite a
Some people
few,
want to listen to this, believe it or not. You know. Go
I
ahead.
see quite a few larger businesses coming in, and I know often we give tax incentives to the businesses. Are we doing that? Are we giving tax breaks for payroll taxes and things like that to the larger businesses that are coming in?
I think that's kind of a loaded question in that we do job incentive programs and we do other programs like that. Now, the criticism is, well, what do you do for smaller businesses? However, like a job development incentive program, those incentives, some of those things like, or an IRB, like on a bond, there's not enough money that we collect from a small business that we could incentivize that would make it worth their while. So for example, if I own a small business here and my occupational license, if I'm under a certain amount of receipts, my occupational license is $75 for the city for that permit. So incentivizing the $75 doesn't necessarily do anything to keep that business open. So for example, we got criticism when Klingenberg's, the small hardware store, was down there forever on the west side, and it closed. And we got some criticism, well, if you'd give them an incentive, we could have made them completely tax exempt, and it wouldn't have made enough money to their bottom line because the amount of cash that they were paying to the city would have made very, very little difference to their bottom line, even if we had incentivized that.
That's not answering my question. Are we
It's
giving-
not
are we
answering,
giving
I am
tax-
answering your question, but I'm explaining that the way that you asked the question is, are you giving them to large businesses, which implies that there's not something there for small business. So I wanted to explain that before Lenny jumped in to explain what those incentives are.
Thank you.
As Mr. Hayden had mentioned, we do have a job, it's called the JDIP. It's a Job Development Incentive Program. A business coming in will present a plan, and there's a growth chart that they have to stick to as far as number of employees and the amount of payroll tax that they're bringing in. And that's put before a committee, and then the recommendations made.
That's
To the city.
business by business then?
Correct. That's, the business applies for that with the city, and then we review that and look at it. And off the top of my head, I don't know if we're around 9 to 12 currently in that JDIP program. Sometimes they apply for, it's the state of Kentucky, there's the KBI, Kentucky Business Incentive, and sometimes,
Yeah,
yeah. But sometimes there's a local portion that goes with that.
Oh, got it.
So, if you were to, I know we're sticking kind of to real estate, but if we were to talk later, if you would see the growth of our payroll tax revenues and how that's grown over time, it's always exceeding the budget. Part of that is why, we spoke at the last meeting, our real estate is a percentage of our total revenues is between like 13 and 17%,
The
which,
real estate tax.
yes, is a percentage of our full revenue.
And that also includes commercial property, so that's not just residential property. When you include commercial property, the residential input is what?
40%.
It's 40%, so the total number is more along the lines of 12% from the residents.
So 12% from the residents and how much commercial?
I'd have to, look, I'm like a super numbers guy, I like having the actual figures in front of me, kind of in a spreadsheet. I'll pull some of this up we can look at. We can look at the number of commercial parcels and the value of that. I'll do a quick
So-
walkthrough.
So do you have tax abatements for The payroll taxes for the larger companies?
Uh,
We have general tax abatements for payroll. A lot of times when a business comes into a city, there are tax abatements given,
Are
basically.
you talking about real estate or just payroll?
Payroll or real estate, either one.
Real estate, if, depending on if there's an IRB issue, but those companies, there's a pilot payment agreement that's made, and that's an acronym for payment in lieu of taxes. Because those parcels technically become tax exempt. Well, they still pay the city something, and that's also in our budget.
Say that again? I'm sorry.
Property, a lot of these developments, when people think they're getting a property, as like an abatement, the property, these industrial revenue bonds, it's a tool for development. Bonds are issued for development. A mechanism of that is that the property gets put in the city's name, almost kind of like collateralizing it. So, City of Newport's a tax exempt entity. The property then becomes tax exempt. Well, before that deal goes anywhere, there's a pilot arrangement made with the developer, payment in lieu of taxes. So they are paying the city money on the value of that property. It's just not technically a tax. It does not show up in the tax rolls, but, because
It
it's,
shows up where? As revenue.
and we do have property tax revenue line. There's like 13 categories. The pilot's one category.
Got it.
All right, Ms. Kay, do you have any other questions? Your time has elapsed, and we need to,
That happens to me a lot, sorry. That's it.
Happens to the best of us.
If the mayor and the board would like, I can do a very quick run-through of
I
what
think
they-
it's useful at this time. The last meeting, we didn't have much public here. I think it's a good time to actually go through and review all the information that us as a board review and a shorter version and condensed version for the public. So I appreciate you doing that, Leonard.
Okay.
Mayor, could we look one more time, see if anybody else wants to speak to the issue?
Well, I think he'll do the presentation, and then we will go back to that because it may answer questions.
All right.
Our TV does that upstairs at Samsung. Kick immediately to a Samsung.
Or Google or whatever.
Yeah. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to walk through, the calculation for taxes is not always just A plus B equals C. There's a lot of factors that go into this calculation. I'll talk about the calculation in a minute, but the first thing I want to run through is all the backup that feeds into this calculation. I know this is kind of tiny. I'll run through some of this. If we have questions, we can get through it later. There's kind of a lot to talk about. This first piece of backup, this is the certified letter for PVA up the street. When they send us a tax roll, the PVA administrator has to certify that tax roll. All these pen markings are going to come up later in the calculation. Everything's earmarked that flows into the calculation. So we match all this to the file too. When we're importing it into our software, we'll make sure everything balances. For 2024, we're up to 3.1 billion, 3.2 billion. These are exemptions.
That's a lot of exemptions.
It is. Some of that ties to some of the development we were talking about. They still pay pilot payments, they're just not in the tax roll. So real estate, the exemptions, then they also talk about additions and deletions. That comes in to determine what's called new property. New property can affect the calculation because there's kind of a 1-year buffer for that. Because it follows through the math, and then it's a whole other conversation to get into. And then there's our personal property tax down here. Next page, Larry.
Excuse me, but
Ms. Cade, I'm sorry, but you can ask the questions after the presentation. I'd like him to get the opportunity to get through the presentation.
what it had to do with the numbers, and the numbers are gone now. So there we go.
Okay, so this is the last page. This is 1,100 pages. This is the tax roll. So that first page, that's what I was talking about, making sure these balance. So, this is the total assessment after the exemptions were at 1.2 billion. So, commercial, residential. Trying to make sure that the mayor and the board can see as well. There's the number of parcels, and then here's the after exemption values. And here's a breakdown of what those exemptions are. Federal, state, county, city, a lot of the larger number of counts are with the homestead exemption. All right, next page, Larry. Keep going. Okay, so these are all the people on the moratorium program for this upcoming year. All right, keep scroll down. You'll see a yellow total there. Oh, there we go. So, folks, I don't have to count on it, but when they declared the value before we gave them the moratorium, it was at 10 million. They're now valued at 26 million, so there is 16.2 million in moratorium exemption that's figured into our calculation. Next page,
When
Larry.
you say moratorium exemption, what's that?
It's a program where people redeveloping a property can lock in the value for 5 years on the city side. So if you bought a house for $100,000 and it's going to be $300 by the time you're done, and $100,000 stays that value.
Oh, so you have a basically tax abatement program.
Yes. And you can see 3 pages, it's been pretty successful. This is the, and it's tiny, this is the personal property, so we have inventory, and we have tools and furniture, it's the 73 million. Next page, Larry. That just rolls the subtotals up to that 73 million. And get down to the bottom of this page, please. Okay, these are the additions and deletions we talked about. We have it's technically 0 new property because our deletions outweigh the additions. We had 76 additions and 130 deletions, and it netted out to 33 million minus.
That's actual properties?
Yes. I mean, you can, so some of the deletions here, you can tell the taxpayer conference, they met, the value was set by the PVA, they met with the PVA, and the value was reduced. These are already fed into the previous numbers, but they always let us know what was added or deleted.
How does that happen? On practical level?
Ms. Kate, I'm sorry, but this is not a question and answer. This is a presentation. If you can consolidate your questions at the end, I'll give you the opportunity to ask those questions.
All right, next page. So this is another large part of our taxes. You can see it's 37 million. This is PSC, Public Service Commission. So this is mainly telecommunication property in the city, gas and electric utility, railroad, and we also have distilled spirits. So there's a real estate piece to this, and this is more personal property than real estate. Next page there. Other items that we have to get a hold of, watercraft. Watercraft comes into the calculation. That's provided by the ad district. Next page. Railroad. There's railroad. There's a kind of, you'll see in the formula, there's the interstate portion and an intrastate portion. That might be the last page. All right, we'll get to the second PDF. All right, so we basically, the ad district, the Northern Kentucky Ad District, Northern Kentucky Area Development District, they calculate, most of the cities send all the information I just showed you, they send it to the ad district, and they have the ad district compute the rate for them. Well, Newport, we've always, you know, we could double check it, we always like to do it ourselves. You can see all the pieces that go into it, the fine tuning of it. So we basically got the spreadsheet and the system they use, and we just fill it in ourselves. So that's what I'm gonna run to. That's why you'll see ad district up here at the top, kind of write the data into that. There's just some information on that front page. Next page, Larry. Okay, so this matches up to all the backup I was telling you guys about. So this first page is PSC. So there's the real estate, and feeding down there's that 34. So this is what's happening in the 2024 Public Service Commission figures. And there's, again, adjustments that come into this. There's this 4R figure, which is railroad. It's a 4R word acronym. This is changed by the state every year. It's 57%. That comes into those railroad figures that I showed earlier. Next page. So this is where we start to look at real estate and tangible property. So here are the 2023 figures, here's the 2024 figures. And there you can see the difference in what was assessed. You can see the exemptions grew as well. We have our moratoriums in there, and it's subtotal. Personal property changed, just went down a little bit. There's our additions and deletions. And that public service from that first page feeds on over. These were our rates last year, because this is going to compute what the revenue would have been at the, using that to figure out what revenue level we would be at, compute the compensating rate. So it just feeds on through. The next page. All right, these figures that carry over, so on and so forth. Scroll up just a little bit more there, Larry. I'm sorry. Yeah, just a little bit more. Okay, sorry. Bring it down some. Okay, so these figures are starting to be plugged in from all that previous data that I gave you. This shows that our compensating rate would be $2.07 per thousand. So at current assessment level, with the exemptions, to get the revenue that we calculated off of the certification of last year, the rate would be $2.07. It also follows in and says that our allowable rate, the comp plus 4, would be $2.15 per thousand. Next page. Same thing is done for the personal property tax. So comp was a 2.49, allowable was a 2.59. Next page. This is just, it continues to feed across. This shows the 207. This is what our revenue, estimated revenue would be. And then we also show the comp 1, 2, 3, and 4. So comp will be 2.6. We're going to take the comp plus 4, it'd be an additional 104,000. New property is our deletions outweighed our additions. There's nothing to compute here, so there was no, that didn't fall into the formula. And then this is the same thing, it's run down for the personal property. Compensating rate, comp 1, 2, 3, and 4, an additional 10,700. So as you can see, there's a lot of moving pieces in calculating this rate. That's kind of an overview.
On the board, any questions for Lenny? Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah. Ms. Kate asked about the moratoriums, and would you speak to how many residential units there are that we've given moratoriums on and what that is?
Yeah, so the city has a program, it's on the website. If you're going to, you have to, it's improving an existing parcel. So again, for now, it always applies a year later. So if there was 100,000, a parcel for 100,000.
Yes, I understand what the program is. They have it in Cincinnati,
Okay.
so I understand what the program is.
Okay.
Thank you.
And as you saw, we had 3 pages. We have a lot of people that are taking advantage of that and improving property.
The one thing that's unique is in Kentucky, you are not allowed to add the school district in. So the value of the moratorium is only the city's rate, which is a very low rate in comparison to what happens in other communities. Go ahead.
What about the nonprofits? Are they completely exempt from all taxes? Or can they pay for the schools and all different things?
All right, this is going to kind of answer your previous question. Real estate went up $500 million, but as you also noted, our exemptions went up $228,000. So the net increase was $274 million. Here are the various exemptions. You can see the educational exemptions that went up $40 million. We have religious exemptions, the disability and the homestead, those are all kind of tied together. There's some federal property, state property, and then the city and county property.
I think the most important thing about your presentation is a lot of people haven't seen the nuts and bolts of how this works, and I think that's what triggered the question. We've been consistent in this function for how many years and assessing it this way.
I mean, I know,
And it's in compliance with law, first
we've
of
been
all.
following the ed district probably since the 2000, year 2000 or so.
And then just to give all those present and those on the internet perspective, as we've dealt with challenges of tax rate and income, one of the biggest challenges that we faced through the auditor and the rating agencies was not taking the +4 triggers what?
Right, so a lot of the debt that we issue is GO debt, general obligation, which is backed by basically the taxing powers of the city. So by taking the comp +4, it shows that we are, have the resources to make the debt payments. And for a while, like when I've lived in the city my whole life. I know when I started here, the city had dropped the rate, I believe, 16 years in a row. And I think sometimes it was maybe done when it maybe wasn't necessary. I really shouldn't judge on those things. But you can see the effect of that over time. Like when you look at, on the last presentation, 16 taxing agencies in the county, and we've been at 14 forever. Well, now we've provided the vote is towards the suggested rate. We're going to drop to number 15.
And the only one that is lower than us has no police or fire service at all, and we provide them services.
You add to the insurance tax, you add to the income tax.
Those taxes have been constant for years. We didn't add to any taxes. The only tax that we added to recently, which is probably 12 years ago, was insurance premium tax when the residents were upset that we were not paving the streets. And we could not afford to pave the streets. And the plan at that time was to dedicate this tax to capital improvements and street paving. And we've done that year over year. So this isn't new.
You just said they're only putting 9% towards that.
That's what the increase was at that time. Any of that increase that was made at that time went to those improvements, and it has been done exactly as prescribed. City Manager, or John Hayden, do you have anything to add? I'm used to saying Tom Fromey, and I almost call you Tom Fromey every time. Anyone on the board?
I just have one question for Mr. Hayden. If anybody from the public wants to come and ask about taxes, is it true that staff is free to sit down with them and they can have all their questions answered? They don't have to come to a meeting to do that they have the ability, that we're that transparent where they can do that?
Yeah, we'd set that up if somebody had wanted to go through all in a lot more detail than what Lenny's done. We could make that happen.
And I think it's important to note that this is the right place. So thanks for coming to the meeting and bringing your questions. In addition, we have been incredibly intentional in being transparent and have aligned with a program called OpenGov. Lenny, can you give a little bit of a speech on OpenGov and what it does?
OpenGov is a transparency program. It pulls directly from our software. There are probably some additional reports that we could add to that, but it pulls pretty much budget and actuals as far as what's hitting the ledger, and it's the ability for the public to log in and check some of that out. I haven't really been on the back end of it. I know in my mind at some point there are some other things I would love to add. Maybe some of the slides you've seen with some comparisons and things like that aren't currently on there. But it does tie directly to the budgets that are implemented and where we stand as payroll and checks are cut for city business.
And that was done intentionally to add total transparency for people that have questions. They have a place to go to find
Yeah,
it.
and I believe it links from our website, directly from our website. There's a link you can find.
Just click on it.
Yes.
Yes, there is. I looked at it. I would add one thing. It's great. It has a lot of charts, but I'm a numbers person. It doesn't have all the numbers stuff, but it doesn't have before, you compare 23 to 24. It doesn't have the actual numbers. It's got a lot of charts, which are great. But I'm a numbers person, so I've been to other cities where they have both. So
right, is there anyone else that would like to speak on the tax rate? Please come up to the microphone.
Just a follow-up here. Just a follow-up, Kevin Cook again.
Hold on, Kevin. Is there anyone else that wants to speak? And
Yeah, I'd
if
like
if
to
everyone else has
make
had an
sure
opportunity to
everybody
speak, then
else.
then I'll bring you back up. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on the tax rate? Welcome, Kevin.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be rude, go out of order. So we were at the school board meeting, and they were referring to the 6,000 properties that the city has just doesn't collect taxes on. You can see through the PVA. Where would that be in the numbers now that they're not up anymore? Where does it, are those even figured in to the budget, or?
Every project is figured into the budget. Lenny, I think you described the properties with religious institution, and all those were the ones he just went through on that list.
Oh, I was just curious where it was on the list, but that's gone. Or can we pull it up? That's in the 34,000, isn't it the 34 million? Or?
Real quick, we have about 6,000. Go to the backup, please, Larry, and then the second page. We have about 6,600 properties, so I don't know how we're collecting $1.2 billion on just 600 properties. The school said we're not collecting on
Well, it's something I,
6,000 properties?
So that was just a factual incorrection. That couldn't be accurate.
okay. Oh,
Before we vote, you want to make a comment?
Sure.
Yeah. You know, I'm pretty guilty. I was one of those that lowered tax rates in the past when I sat up here. And it was almost a race because we were one of the highest tax rates in Campbell County. And so we did lower tax rates, and I regret that now. I think it's House Bill 44 or something like that passed in the 70s. Caps our ability to use real estate tax. And we are very limited and hamstrung. And it creates a problem for us that I'd like to explain a little bit of. When the economy hits the skids, and it will, we'll hit another recession, and employees will be shed like there's no tomorrow, we have to fall back on property tax rate in order to make ends meet. And now property tax is only, arguably, it might be 14%, but I would argue it's probably more like 11 or 10% of our total budget. So at one time, property tax was probably 40%. It's no longer that way. We're being hamstrung, I believe, by the state government in limiting our abilities to have a more diverse and a more equitable system of taxing. Now, there are those that would argue that we ought to get rid of property taxes entirely. Well, then we're really going to be dependent upon the payroll taxes. And so, you know, I'm kind of explaining my position here in that I'm going to vote in favor of this and in favor of the compensating rate plus 4. Now, every time we don't take the 4 above the compensating rate, in the future, we're losing out even further because the next rate is based upon the rate we set before. So that 4% compounds, and we definitely need it in the environment that you speak of, Kevin, which is being pressured with inflation and those type of things. Now, Jerome Powell pulled back and said the economy is beginning to show real signs of resiliency, and he lowered the rate, so adding more fuel to the fire. So anyway, that's what I have to say. Thanks, Tom.
You're welcome. Any other comments on the board? I do want to speak to the fact that over the years, we have staffing rates at the lowest that they've ever been in history. So in regard to the taxpayer dollars, it's efficient. We do not have a lot of staff for the sake of staff. Many of the staff wear many hats and do great work and are incredibly efficient because we've never been in an economic position to actually reinstate a lot of positions. See a lot and get a lot of questions about adding positions and adding a lot of things to our community. All those things come with tax dollars. And to be able to move this community forward, we got to keep up. So with 4% increase in property tax, that's a small portion of the entire budget. And it's a laggard from inflation. And we also have a responsibility to pay our employees, and all the expenses that come along with paving streets are not getting cheaper either. So I understand that it's hard when you get those tax bills in the mail, and none of it is fun because it does get more expensive. However, someone that is living in their home at this point will actually receive a tax deduction if their property wasn't reassessed this year. Most people were, but there are different people in different situations that are just happy that we're reducing the rate. So with that, I ask Tiffany to please call the roll. I'm sorry, we closed the comments. I'll be glad to talk to you after the meeting, but the comments are closed. We got to get more civility in this meeting. This meeting was a little bit out of control, and we're going to do the best that we can to keep the order in the meetings.
Commissioner Smith Morrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Recton,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fennell,
Yes.
Commissioner Redwanski.
Yes.
Mayor Kaduli.
Yes. New business, first reading of Commissioner Ordinance number 19.
An ordinance of the Board of Commissioners, City of Newport, Kentucky, establishing the World Peace Bell Hotel Area Improvement District and authorizing the assessment of levying of an improvement district upon the daily room rate charges of hotel operations located therein.
So moved.
Second.
Mayor and Commissioners, this was done at the request of Sean Pan, who's building the hotel site at New York, and requested this, which would be a fee that would be levied upon his patrons of, I think it's 3%, and that money would go toward infrastructure on the site, particularly in the garage. So this is something that he asked for his clients. I think this has been discussed at various points in front of the board.
Any questions on the board?
Will the person that's making the reservation be able to tell what that 3% is, or will it just be some kind of a lump?
That would depend on them. I know that the federal government has had a lot of comments over the years about so-called hidden fees with these types of things. How they itemize it, I'm not sure. I would imagine it's listed out as like other taxes would.
On your bill?
I'm assuming that, but I don't think that we have that, we're not putting that obligation on them.
And to be clear, this is an opt-in opportunity in the state law that allows them to do this, correct? Last couple years, this is a new program that allows them to create a zone that they control and they can charge those residents.
That's correct. You have to create the district in order to implement the imposition of the tax. The tax is 2.5%. And according to my conversations with Sean Pan, it will show up as an itemized list on
Good.
your hotel bill. And pursuant to the ordinance and the program, they're going to pay it to us, I think, on a monthly basis. And then the money that comes from the city will be put aside mainly to cover the cost of infrastructure for the garage.
Gotcha.
Correct. It has to be in that, the improvements must be done in that zone. Any other questions or comments from the board, the public?
I don't want to split hairs on it, but I believe, is it 3.5% rather than 3?
Commissioner, I'm sorry, I was just
2.5.
generalizing
Yeah,
the comment.
a little bit.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Recton,
Yes, to advance it to the next reading.
Vice Mayor Fennell,
Yes.
Commissioner Redwanski,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith Morrow,
Yes.
Mayor Kaduli.
Yes. Commissioner's order number 58.
An order of the Board of Commissioners, City of Newport, Kentucky, declaring certain surplus property of the City of Newport as surplus personal property and authorizing disposal in accordance with state law.
Chief, I don't know.
Second.
This should be my surplus equipment.
There's two. This one's police.
Oh,
You're
okay.
number 66.
Sorry, Chief.
A little premature. Real
I'm
quick,
sorry, who did?
And someone please update us on what exactly this is then?
Police department came to me several months ago, just gave them one some stuff out of the evidence locker. By law, we were required to advertise it, Tiffany put it on a site indicating what the merchandise was. If anyone claimed ownership, they had to come forward in a certain amount of time. They didn't do that, time expired. Now this is the order to allow us to dispose of it. And the list is attached to the order.
Any questions on the board? Questions from the public? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Fennell,
Yes.
Commissioner Redwanski,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith Morrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Recton,
Yes.
Mayor Kaduli.
Yes. Commissioners' Resolution Number 65.
A resolution of the Board of Commissioners, City of Newport, Kentucky, authorizing the filing of a Kentucky House Bill 1 project grant application for up to $7,500,000 and House Bill 1 funds with the Department for Local Government, authorizing and directing the mayor of the City of Newport to execute any documents which are deemed necessary by the DLG to carry out the James Taylor Park project, and authorizing the mayor to act as the authorized correspondent for this project.
So moved.
This is simply allowing the mayor to sign for the grant funding that relates to James Taylor Park. As the board is aware, for reasons beyond our knowledge, the state of Kentucky gave the James Park funding to the county as opposed to the city. The county has already entered into an MOA. I think we've executed all of that. So these are just the next steps that we can move forward with the grant funding.
Will we be controlling this money or the county?
We will control it. So in the county, when they received the money, made it very clear through Judge Pendry and Mr. Fromey that they did not request to be the grant recipient, nor did they want to be the grant recipient. They were happy to turn the money over to the city of Newport for us to do
Awesome.
as we need to see fit for the improvements of the park.
Good.
Thank you.
And we're excited to receive it and continue the progress of determining what that park looks like, and $7.5 million will be of help. Any questions from the public?
What are the plans for the
I'm sorry, can you please come up to the mic and?
What are the plans for the 7.5 million?
The legislature allocated $7.5 million for the refurbishment of Taylor Park. So again, it was money that came from the state of Kentucky to refurbish James Taylor Park.
Oh, it wasn't a grant you had to apply for?
There was no application. There was a partial application process.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
I was just asking what the plans were and if there was
Well,
anywhere
the
we could.
plans are in the process of a committee that is a part of figuring out what the goals of that park is.
Those plans-
They've held one meeting so far, and those meetings, I have not yet even received that information.
Okay.
They're having input sessions with a goal of developing plans to present to this board.
Okay. Will we have access to that on the website for the city?
Absolutely, when they
Okay.
become available.
Okay, thank you. Well,
You're welcome.
usually you apply for a grant and then there's a plan, and so that's why I was asking. Thank you.
We've, so maybe some of you may have noticed that we recently cut a big hole into our levee around the James Taylor Park. Is that grant money, is that money going towards adding flood protection walls into that over by Ovation?
We did not cut a hole. Sanitation District did, SD1, which is a different agency, which they cut the hole.
Can we at least make a point, because it protects us, that we please put pressure on them to repair the hole?
They
or
have a
put-
mobilization team that's prepared if the water comes up. They have equipment on site to actually stabilize the hole that's in the wall, and they are required to do so by law.
This is heavily regulated by the state. The state's down there. We spoke to the SD1 folks last week. They want to get it closed up as soon as possible because they don't want the liability of having to close it in the event of a flood event.
Yeah, the reason I bring this up is there's three dikes outside of upriver in Ohio that are in severe condition. There's billions of dollars going into being prepared of them. Please keep your foot on them, get that done quickly, just in case one of those slip.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Josh Tunning. I live at 212 West 8th Street. I meant to get here during public forum, but I was late. That's on me. But I wanted to talk about, if it's okay, real quick about the West Side's connectivity to James Taylor Park in relation to the 4th Street Bridge. I'll be very brief. So tonight, I am here on behalf of the West Side Citizens Coalition to talk about this. First, I want to say thank you to the mayor, commissioners, city administration. You've all been following along during this process with KYTC District 6 and the bridge. You all have been great allies in this process. You've been great advocates for the neighborhood. We know it's been a not super fun process, but we thank all of you for being good partners for the neighborhood. As you know, earlier this year, the West Side Citizens Coalition, East Row, and the Clifton Neighborhood Association all came together to write a letter to publicly convey to you and to KYTC District 6 about some of the concerns we have with the proposed plan. Some of these concerns are, we believe, this bridge with the roundabout is going to increase highway traffic in the neighborhood, pollution, speeding in the neighborhood, and really limit our access getting to General James Taylor Park. Some of these concerns that have come up recently, even in the James Taylor Park Planning Committee, is the number one concern we heard from residents in that meeting is residents in the west side of Newport don't have a safe way to access James Taylor Park. If you live in the neighborhood, like me, if you want to get to James Taylor Park in the west side of Newport, while living in the west side of Newport, you have to cross 4 lanes of highway traffic, no matter which way you go from. We think that's unsafe, and with the excitement about James Taylor Park, and I think this $7 million grant shows that continued leadership and investment in our neighborhood from the city, which we appreciate, this is the time to tackle some of those concerns. Recently, at the August 5th City of Newport caucus meeting, KYTC District 6 Chief Engineer publicly expressed how the roundabout at the 4th Street Bridge was dangerous and a major problem. And that was his words, not ours as a neighborhood. He expressed that he would like this new bridge to increase semi-truck traffic into our neighborhood. And 1 week after that meeting on August 12th, we had a semi-truck overturn in the roundabout in our neighborhood. It was an accident, but we're very lucky. No one was seriously hurt. No one was killed during that. And as a neighborhood, we're concerned that could be a sign of things to come. Despite all these concerns, we have solutions that we think are reasonable, are common sense, and are filled with compromise. Solution 1 is if the new bridge has to be 4 lanes and increase highway traffic in residential West Newport, we think it needs to be streetcar ready. If it's a bridge for 100 years, let's ensure it's future-proof, can hold rail, and support public transportation as it continues to grow. We believe a new cut in the flood wall on the west side of town would increase pedestrian access to the park and overall increase safety. We believe turning Route 9 into a greenway corridor, putting trees along it, making wide shared use bike paths would increase safety along Route 9 into the roundabout, into James Taylor Park, but also really make Route 9 a powerful economic corridor that we know it can be. And lastly, we think the 4th Street Bridge roundabout needs a redesign. As a neighborhood, we're not anti-roundabout, but we are anti-bad design. And we all hear time and time again how dangerous that roundabout is. As someone who runs a lot, when I cross that roundabout, I feel like I'm taking my life into my own hands every time I cross it. Again, we believe each of these solutions are common sense, are reasonable to accomplish, and are filled with compromise and discussions we've had so far. A lot of these solutions the city of Newport is already working on. And again, we appreciate that continued leadership and investment in our neighborhood from you all. Tonight, the West Side Citizens Coalition is publicly asking that the City Commission consider and support these 4 proposed solutions. We're also asking that KYTC District 6 consider these in their final plan. Although we have concerns with the process and this plan that we really don't know what the final plan is right now, KYTC District 6 does do great work. We're not approaching them with anger or regret. These are our friends who do great work in our region, but we're asking them to do this great work with the neighborhood, with the West Side Citizens Coalition. So again, tonight, the West Side Citizens Coalition thanks all of you for your continued investment in the neighborhood. We do thank KYTC for their work, but we're hoping this final plan really represents a project and a bridge that is equitable for everyone. Thank you, and we look forward to hearing from you all soon.
Thanks, Josh. I think it's important to note that KYTC was here And when they were here, they didn't have many answers, and it was very unfortunate. So I think as an overarching goal, it's to get them back here again, to give us a presentation as to what things actually look like. I was personally disappointed at the last meeting because I thought that was a part of the presentation, and it was not. So I think that they're further along. It's been a month, and I think that we need to have them back to discuss these ideas and others that are out there in the community. All right, great, thanks. Appreciate that. Any other questions on the board?
No.
Seeing none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Radwanski?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith Morrow?
Yes.
Commissioner Recton?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fennell?
Yes.
Mayor Kaduli?
Yes. Commissioner's Order number 66.
In order, the Board of Commissioners, City of Newport, Kentucky, declaring certain personal property of the City of Newport as surplus personnel property, authorizing transfer in accordance with state law.
So moved.
Second.
Welcome, Chief Paluso.
Thank you. Sorry for being out of turn. So this is a set of our structural firefighting ensemble that we wear into fires. It does have shelf life. That shelf life is 10 years. We no longer have a need for this set. We do have a local department that does need, and their chief and I agreed to essentially taking the price of a new ensemble, dividing it by 10 years, and they're going to pay us for the usable life left in the equipment. So that is why we are getting rid of this.
Any questions on the board?
The lucky recipient.
The Hebron Fire Protection District is buying it.
I'd like to see that cooperation.
Yes.
Great, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Smith Morrow?
Yes.
Commissioner Recton?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fennell?
Yes.
Commissioner Radwanski?
Yes.
Mayor Kaduli?
Yes. Commissioner's Order number 67.
In order, the Board of Commissioners, City of Newport, Kentucky, accepting the bid of and authorizing the city manager, Thomas J. Fermi, to enter into and execute a contract with Regular Blacktop for the 2024 street resurfacing project.
So
Moved.
Second.
We have Mark Hawkins here from Public Works, if you have any questions. These have all gone to bid prior to this year. These are resurfacing. Eaton Ash, there's both resolutions are resurfacing. Number one with Eaton Asphalt is West 12th Street from Lowell to Licking Pike and the intersection of East 3rd and Park Avenue. And then the second with Wriggler is West 12th Street. Those are these are the exact same number. Well, these are the bids, I'm sorry. I was like, that's not right. To be done, it's West Street, Lowell to Licking Pike, and then West 3rd, or East 3rd to Park Avenue. Those are the streets that are being done. And then we have the bid information on there as well for the board.
No, come on, you got to at least say hello, Mark.
Commissioners, how you doing?
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Mark. When do you believe these will be paved? Do we have a date certain at this point?
I think they're just waiting to get approved.
Okay, and then they'll mobilize quickly?
Anxious to get started, yeah.
All right, great.
Yep.
Any other questions on the board?
Again, it's West 12th, West 3rd and Park?
Yeah, it's the intersection of 3rd and Park, yeah.
3rd and Park.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of rough to do there.
All right, thank you, Mark. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Recton?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fennell?
Yes.
Commissioner Radwanski?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith Morrow?
Yes.
Mayor Kaduli?
Yes. Commissioner's Order number 68.
In order, the Board of Commissioners, City of Newport, Kentucky, accepting the bid of and authorizing the city manager, Thomas J. Fermi, to enter into and execute a contract with Rector Excavating for the Bright Alley project.
So moved.
Second.
In harmony.
Like it.
This is, I believe, one block of Breathe Alley that wasn't done last year. Those that don't know, that's over on the west end toward, like 9th Street, Lindsay, thereabouts.
And that'll finish out concreting that alley. All right, thank you. Any other questions on the board? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Fennell?
Yes.
Commissioner Radwanski?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith Morrow?
Yes.
Commissioner Recton?
Yes.
Mayor Kaduli?
Yes, department head comments. Chief Fangman.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have something this evening. I have a pink badge that our Newport police officers, several will be wearing. Our Newport Police Union Fraternal Order of Police Lodge number 2, because we were the second in the state, which is kind of cool historically, is actually reimbursing all of the officers that are going to be getting these pink badges for Breast Cancer Awareness Month in October. one of your officers, his mother was diagnosed with breast cancer, and it was moving to see the officers that rallied around him, and we all had conversations about how cancer has affected all of us. And I do want to say that as a statement from the command staff and all of your police officers, we wanted to make sure that we're going to be wearing these badges for everybody that's affected you all when it comes to cancer and your families as well. It's the first time in our history in the Newport Police Department that we're actually doing this, and we're very proud of it, and thank you for the opportunity to speak about it, sir.
Nice. Thanks, Chief. Dan?
I'm just here to hear the hummingbird hum.
Nice.
Is that the existential, Dan?
There's a backstory to it, I'll explain.
Chief Paluso, you want any other comments?
I've said enough, thank you.
Brian Steffen? Lenny?
I've spoken enough. Just want to give an update. We've spoken about the website and transparency. I know the board wanted to see the budget on the website. Tiffany has handed it off to me and asked me weekly where I am with that. I am in the process of trying to get that done. I know we're at the end of September. I'm trying to get a format that will look good. It's not just like the chart, OpenGov can be a little clunky. This will be kind of what we see some of the sheets that you guys see when we approve the budget. It is up to 107 pages, so I am working on it, but it should be done here hopefully in the next couple weeks.
Great, thank you. Tiffany?
Nothing, thank you.
All right. Ken?
Oh, just very quickly, it won't take much time. Miss Kate asked, how long you been with us now? You moved to the city recently?
Yes, less than a year.
Good, congratulations, thanks. I hope you enjoy it here. You asked about planning for James Taylor Park. The City of Newport, in conjunction with Re-Newport, applied for and received from the Department of Natural Resources a planning grant. And the woman sitting to your right in the Bengal shirt will verse you all about that and how it's coming along. So we'll be going through a planning process on that park. So, all right, that's all I got. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks. Commissioner Smith-Morrow?
Good meeting, good discussion. I think a highlight for me tonight, I have to say, is bringing on the 5 new firefighters. And really thrilled with the work that Chief is doing and the whole team, and really glad to have these 5 people coming. It will help. And that's, when we talk about budget, we should think about how much of our budget goes into paying the salaries of our police and fire. And I'm very proud of the work that both departments do, and we've really worked hard to get to a point where Chief would be able to hire new people to get you all up to a staffing level that we feel like we need. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Julie. Commissioner Fennell?
Thank you. I was just going to say.
Vice Mayor Fennell, I'm sorry.
Okay. I was going to just say go Bengals, but I think something that gets lost in that when we talk about taxes is just our location with all Cincinnati and all the traffic that comes in and out of, and all the services that we have to provide because of our location. I think we provide many more services than most cities around us. And feel free to correct me if I'm not right about that. Now, go Bengals. Let's get out of here and watch the game.
Commissioner Radwanski?
Mayor, I have no comments tonight. Thank you. Who Day.
Who Day? That's simpler than I thought what you were going to do. All right, Who Day is right. And
one quick thing, we got a...
Kevin Ellison birthday.
Yes,
Happy
here we
birthday,
go.
Kevin.
Hey, Kevin.
Happy birthday to our good friend. We talked about one event today, which is, again, the Mammoth Fest, not on Monmouth, adjacent to Monmouth, so it's nearby. But we also have one of Kevin's favorites, October 20th, which is Wheels Back on Monmouth, which is an exciting thing. So we got two great festivals. I know he's been working hard with a lot of people in our community that are working to make that an event a great success. So Kunkel was here, but yeah, it's good work. That's going to be a great event as well. So we're looking forward to hosting 2 great events in our community. Also, want to just share, we did talk about the tax rate tonight, but that definitely connects to the budget. The budget was a previous meeting, and there were a lot of details and a lot of discussions in the budget meeting. So if you have interest in budgets, it's a fun meeting, and there's a lot of information presented, and a lot of the questions that were posed tonight were actually covered at that meeting. But I just want to thank you all for being here and asking for good questions tonight. That's a part of the debate and understanding, but the tax rate is an important thing, and we need to continue to have a prosperous city, and unfortunately, taxes is a part of the economics of city government that makes it work so that we can hire good firemen, even though we're still 4 short of a full complement. But I know we're working hard to get there. And our police department and all of our staff. We have a great staff, proud of all of them and the good work that they do, serving our community and serving you. And with that, I ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Redwanski?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith Morrow?
Yes.
Commissioner Recton?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fennell?
Yes.
Mayor Kaduli?
Yes, thank you.